Good morning and welcome to Viva Cafe con Leche. I'm the badass Buddha, and I'm had something in my mouth that I was.
Did you almost choke?
I thought I would have finished it by then. And the funny part is, you and I are the same. We don't really tend to eat breakfast, or at least not early. But I was so damn hungry this morning, and I'm like, oh my god, I have to have a bagel. And I'm thinking, oh, I'll make it. I'm gonna shove the bagel in my mouth and chew on it. But I start fiddling with the phone and getting on the Facebook, and I'm like, oh my god. So good morning, everyone, and welcome. I am broadcasting from Southern Connecticut, where
Yay!
our weather is about to match Gladiator Guru's weather. It is
Well,
good.
it's been dangerous. I mean, I was just you read about the fires in Portugal heading into Spain. This morning it says something about the fires in France. And then my friend WhatsApped me yesterday from the Canary Islands, and he says it's just as bad.
Oh, because it's just hot. It's just even in
Yeah.
the Canary Islands, it's so hot.
Yes. And in
Wow.
Spain and in France. So yeah.
Well, good morning, Gladiator Guru. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hola, mi gente, aquí con la Margarita. I always get excited. Tuesday mornings are always, you know what, every morning's exciting, but I always get excited to come on to Viva and see Tiffany, Brian, and Milagros. Everybody else who's trickling in, because why? Why is it? Because it's a beautiful morning. Yeah. I don't care who, I know I'm tone deaf, but I also love to sing. And that's the beauty in being Margarita.
You always say that, but you really don't sing bad.
I am so tone deaf, but thank you. I love you even more for that. But it's because it is a beautiful, every morning that you rise is so beautiful. And it is like the badass is an early riser. I'm not. I've never been in my life, but
4:00 this morning.
But
on
those moments that I had to rise early, I have had a love affair with the day. But as all love affairs, they're only very temporary. So, but like walking through Portugal and Spain, we had to be up, but I still wasn't up like everybody else. So those, where I'm very, very dedicated besides like the Viva is when I know it's going to snow around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Then I'm up. I'm up listening to each snowflake for us, and just it makes it sound. That's it. But I love it. So, hey, and I
do love the snow too. I agree with you. But for me, the reason I can't sleep late, like I just can't do it. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, there's people like that.
But I do love my mornings. See, like you live by yourself when you're by yourself, because you're either at somebody's place or somebody's visiting you. But when you're by yourself, it's like you're by yourself. For me, because I have a whole house full of people, the morning, really early morning, is the only time that I feel like I'm by myself, because the house is so quiet, and I think that's part of it. I think that's just, I can decide anything that I want to do. So like I will sometimes I'll read a book, sometimes I'll meditate, sometimes I'll pray, sometimes I'll do work, sometimes I'll play a video game on my phone. Sometimes I'll check my email. I don't usually do social media, though. That's the only thing. I don't go on social media. I'll check text messages or whatever. But the idea is that it's like, it's all mine. Like if I want to even get up and just go do a load of laundry, it's like nice, And so I think that's why I just really still do it, because my body's just trained itself to do that,
That's a beautiful thing. Like I tell you, those mornings like today, and I have to do something, I really, really fall in love with the day. So it's just about, I'm a night owl. It's where I do my best writing and paint my best paintings.
But the bottom line is, yourself, which is great. And, technically I could do the same thing, because when everybody goes to sleep, it'd be the same scenario, because I would have the house to myself. But for some reason, it feels different to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just like when you say, oh, it feels like a Sunday today. you know, when people say stuff like that, and because people are like, I think that was a Seinfeld episode. It feels like a Tuesday. And when the other one goes, Tuesday has no feel. Monday has a feel. Sunday has a feel. But there's a feeling in the morning plus the sounds.
Yes.
When you go from it's dark and then it's getting lighter and it's quiet, and then all of a sudden you hear that one bird that just decides it's going to be the first one to start singing. And then it starts to sing, and then it sings, and it sings, and then another one you'll hear another one, and then little by little. And I think
the whole symphony begins.
Yes. But at the same token, I could say that about at night because of where I live. You hear all kinds of interesting sounds at night, you know, especially depending on what time of the summer it is. But so yeah, I mean, I don't, but I can't do it though. I've tried to stay up. The only time I stay up is if I drank coffee late in the day. That's the only time that I stay up and I can't sleep. So it's not purposeful.
I always laugh when people say that, but I just think it just goes with your spirit. I'm nocturnal. I can be a morning person sometimes, razzle dazzled and frazzled, and so I just think once you understand the you that you have, then you don't have to look for excuses. I enjoy getting up early most mornings. I do, but it maybe it's just not part of my nature, because I'll try it and I'll do good, and then I still stay up to 1 to 3 o'clock in the morning. But Darlene Kelly, buenos dias. Hello.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hey, Prickles. Stephanie Nieves. Thank you for coming on. But yeah, I think that to even have a conversation of what time of day we love, I think that in itself is beautiful, because we're honoring nature. We're honoring Mother Nature in her sunshine and in her moonlit evenings. So that's always a plus.
Okay. Tell me about your coffee, then we'll do our setup.
I am having the Ethiopian blend.
Because our guest today, Warrnette, we got to cut off right at 9 for her.
Okay.
Because she has it. So yes, Ethiopian blend. Go ahead.
And then you can tell me about that bagel you're eating. Ethiopian blend. I roasted dark. This is my naturally orgasmic cafe blend that I'm drinking. And, you know, I thought I loved my double espresso bean that I did. I thought I loved the Colombian dark roast. And then maybe even the Brazilian semi-dark roast. I thought I love them. But this Ethiopian blend, even when you open it up, it has like this nutty, fruity. I just love it. The taste is completely different. So that's what I'm drinking today with my milk. And I put lavender beads in the milk as it's foaming, and then I strain it. So I have the hint of natural lavender in there as well, because that's how I rolled this morning. And you?
Yeah. So we were talking about this. She sends me a picture of this blend that she put together, and it looked so freaking good. It was ridiculous. Like, I looked at that and it looked so yummy, and the way she displayed it, and the fact that she decided to throw this flavor together with it is just like that infusion is really, really cool. And I love that you are like experimenting, but in such a
natural way.
A natural way, but also out of the box a little bit. Usually, because you know me, and we've talked about this, because you remember you said emphatically, you're like, I'm not doing flavored coffee. It's not that was the coffee was flavored so much as it was the infusion of it and the preparation. But I know flavored coffees. I know the flavors, you know, and so lavender is not really a traditional flavor. But it's so intriguing. And when you looked at the coffee, the way it looked so freaking delicious. All I pictured myself was like sipping that, like on the back of my log home, looking out at my lake early in the morning, you know. But I loved it. It was so cool. So that was awesome. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you when you really just start like rocking and rolling with your coffee, you know, with your coffee business, because there's the sky's the limits with you. Yeah. It doesn't even do it justice. You know what? You have to post it to the Viva page.
Well, yeah, I haven't posted. What it is I don't like syrups. I don't like flavors that are invented. So I get lavender beads, and then I put the whole lavender in the milk, and I let it as I foam it and boil it, and then I put the rose petals on the foam milk. So you get the aroma of both. You don't have to eat the rose petals. I do, but I mean, I think it's beautiful. But okay, before Warrnette comes on, café es, what is coffee this morning? Café es la sabiduría del día. Escucha, atiende, lanzar. Coffee is wisdom of the day. Listen, learn, and do.
I'm telling you, I need to start practicing. Was it necesito practicar mi español, something like that.
There you go.
It's close. It's close. Good morning, Lydia Villanueva. Good morning. All right, so
let's bring her up. Let's bring Miss Warrnette up.
Well, no, we got to set our intention first.
I love her accent.
Oh, I just, you're all going to love Warrnette. Warrnette is just, I met Warrnette through a friend of mine that I knew from chiropractic school, and who's a business coach, Carol Taylor, and Warrnette was in her group, and I have become good friends with this group of fabulous women, which has grown and grown and grown. And I really, really so love these women, and we do a lot of, this is how Clubhouse got started, because Carol started it, and then Warrnette has her own club, and then we all like get into each other's rooms, and Warrnette is just so much fun to listen to, because she just has this beautiful way of connecting with the people that come on and ask questions and stuff, and she's just so inviting. Before we bring Warrnette on, though, let's quickly set our intention. Let's do our mantra, and then we'll bring Warrnette on. Okay, our intention, as usual, for Viva Cafe con Leche is, our intention is to be intentional. Today, to be intentional and
grateful.
So set your intention for whoever that may be today, and always go with gratitude. Okay. All right, here we go with our mantra. Are you ready? Say it loud, say it proud, repeat after me. I am a disruptor.
I am a disruptor.
I am unapologetically courageous.
I am unapologetically courageous.
I am spiritually grounded.
I am spiritually grounded.
I am magically orgasmic.
Ole.
And I am beyond authentic.
And I keep it real.
All right. So let me introduce. Here we go. Warrnette is a certified counselor and life coach with expertise in toxic relationship recovery, coaching, relationship issues, and domestic violence. She has a master's degree in psychology, which, by the way, she never talks about. She always says she's certified in stuff, but she never says she has a master's degree, and that is a big difference. She's dedicated to transforming lives. Since 2000, she has helped clients break through the obstacles that seem to be holding them back in life. She believes that if we don't take care of ourselves first, our relationships will suffer. She's dedicated to helping you overcome the mental and emotional barriers holding you back from being happy, fulfilled, and successful in your relationships. In addition to that, because it's not written here, she is also a certified counselor for substance abuse. And that is actually what today's conversation is going to be about: substance abuse, toxic relationships, and how they all tie in. So without further ado, let's bring up the fabulous Warrnette Lewis. There she is with Lewis.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me, ladies. Thank you.
So Warrnette, how long have you been working with people with substance abuse issues now? How long has that been?
Now I'm telling my real age. I've been doing this for 20 years. I got started being in the criminal justice system, and I got tired of people who had drug and alcohol issues, go to prison. So I said, and at the time I didn't have no degrees or nothing. In order for me to carry that job and assist attorneys with alternative treatment plans. I ended up going back to school, getting my degree, certification in the state of Florida. That means you're licensed in the state of Florida to do that. So I would come up with treatment plans and present it to the attorneys in lieu of these people going to jail because they was either domestic violence situations or alcohol and drug addictions, you know. I just found that, like, why not offer help? So a lot of times I can say more so than not, they did go for the treatment plan. And if they violated, then that was on them. But at least I did that. And I found out that some I actually seen in storage. So, oh, Miss Lewis, thank you so much. So I felt good, you know. And not everyone is going to listen, but I do believe that me being in place helped some of these people who were dealing with drug and alcohol. And some of these issues start with childhood, upbringing. You know, we don't pick our families and how we end up. So a lot of them was very sad. I saw quite a few sad cases where the child, you know, and I never forget this case. This is how families involved with substance and alcohol, because the little 2-year-old, they had like cocaine trays all around the house. And you know, little kids just put their hand in their mouth.
They do.
Before you know it, we had a 2-year-old addicted to cocaine and stuff like that. But it's in the family. That's all they know. Probably they go generation to generation. So being able to help some of that population really strengthened me and made me feel good, you know, that I helped some.
So you also then saw the need, because then you became a life coach specializing in toxic relationships. So did you see, like, when you were working with all these individuals, you started to see that there was also that need to connect the dots there and start to go to those issues that people had with toxic relationships. And when we say relationships, we don't mean, we're not just talking about like significant others. We're talking about family members. We're talking about friends. We're talking about bosses, coworkers, any relationship that a person has, whether it's a close relationship or even just a an acquaintance. So you saw that, like, there was this disconnect between the two.
Yes, there was. It was a disconnect where, far as a lot of times, what was happening, people who was in toxic relationships or in bad relationships, in order to cope in those relationships, a lot of them even have told me too that to cope with it, a lot of them start using alcohol, cocaine, various opiates to try to cope with the relationship. So now, not only do you have the toxic relationship, you now have the addiction to cope with the relationship. So that's how it go hand in hand. You know, so I had a lot of clients when I left the criminal justice system and being out on my own, I had a lot of relationship issues, which I'm starting with, you know, this client coming in with toxicity in relationships. But in reality, I found that they was coping with it. They came in for the relationship, but then as we went on, there's drug and alcohol. And I'm like, how did you start using drugs? Well, you know, I was dealing with a lot of stress and to cope. So that's how I thought, you know, becoming a coach and helping these people outside the criminal justice system is because I found out it's still hand in hand. And some of them wasn't your court recipient people. And a lot of times, ladies, and everyone who's listening, sometimes people are embarrassed. So they don't come forward. Or when they come forward, they downplay it. And then as you talk and they start feeling comfortable, then they'll open up. And I'm like, so really now it's substance as opposed to the relationship, you know. You know, and let's deal with the substance first, because if we can get the substance under control, then maybe we could start tearing apart the obstacles and setting goals to either strengthen your relationship, or it may even come to a point where you got to write that goodbye letter. Because now that you're drug and alcohol free, you may now say, this person I don't need to be with. Or another big thing I found out too, usually a person that was under the influence or under some kind of control usually pick people that was also the same way. And that's a lot of the point where they can cope. They're not going to nitpick them. They're not going to say, why are you doing this here? Why are you using coke? Why are you smoking marijuana every day? Why are you drinking every day? Because everybody doing the same thing to cope, you know. So those are issues that made me extend it. And I figured with my expertise, let me help some of those people who are, because a lot of people are embarrassed, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of people are embarrassed to come forward with that. A lot of them really are because of the shame, you know, and people do judge us. So that's why a lot of people live in a toxic relationship and cope with alcohol and drugs.
Yeah.
You know.
Margie, do you want to say something? Add
Well,
something?
where did you work at?
Well, I work for the criminal justice system here in Miami, which is the court system. If they had been arrested, even now, I do counseling for domestic violence as well as substance now. And when I say that, say the domestic violence, but the alleged victim says that the person is using drugs and alcohol. And a lot of times that's where the violence come in at, because they're under the influence. So even though they was arrested for the domestic violence, but at the same time, they was under the influence. And a lot of people think, well, what does one thing have to do with the other? But listen, that coping, that's what people are using in that category as a coping mechanism to cope with the relationship. So now they're saying, well, they was on drugs or alcohol. You know, when the police comes there or the court system get involved, that's the first thing they're going to say. Was that alcohol? Does the person drink? Does the person use drugs? And usually it is the case. I'm not saying all the time, but usually it is. And because the system, they're now in the system, they're going to start the treatment. You know, so that's where I would come in. It's mandated. They have to complete the program. They have to complete, and I have to indicate and issue the certificate. And if they don't follow through, unfortunately, I have to report that and indicate that. But, you know, I find a real love and enjoyment out of seeing people at the end say, you know what, Miss Lewis, I thought this was going to be bad, but they also get the relationship together, or at least they to the point where they start owning some of the stuff, their part, responsibility.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yes, because at the beginning, oh no. But later they indicate, well, you know, I was drinking too much. That's how that coincide together. I was drinking, I was out at the strip club, the behavior was negative. And now you're trying to have a relationship when you already negative coming in. That's why I speak a lot about our behaviors and what we're doing, you know, to cope. And some people comes up with stuff that I've had men especially. You know, we as women, we tend to, you know, verbalize it more of being abused, PTSD. And somebody said, well, what kind of guy has PTSD? Well, military, that's a big one. And some of them are very violent and aggressive. They don't know how to have healthy relationships. They really don't, you know. So those things is it too. And I've
PTSD can also be, I mean, like that's, you could even grow up in just a really violent neighborhood. You could grow up in a very violent household and just, I think people just so downplay PTSD because they're like, because they don't understand it. And, and they think that a person should be able to just get over it, or they think that the person, their violent tendencies, oh, they have that PTSD thing, where it could also be that they just have no emotion. They don't want to feel it. And that's usually why they use, right? Because they're using the substance because they don't want to deal with anything. And it's just easier that way, which is really sad.
It is. Listening to Warrnette speak, my husband used to do that work here in Tampa.
Oh, really?
He worked the men's residential service, the court ordered. And he worked so hard to speak to these young men and prevent them from falling back into the system because of behaviors.
Yes.
You know, so he really worked hard across the board. There was a mixture of individuals in there, and he would go there and he would not have different groups. They were all one, whether you were white, Spanish, and black. How to get along in the facility so that they can learn how to navigate outside on their own. And
Absolutely.
so listening to you speak was like something Eric would have said. And he worked hard and he kept a lot of them out of the system.
Yes.
Really.
Yes.
And when he passed, there was a lot of them that were clean and came to his.
Yes.
It
It's
was
there.
something about Mr. Chapman that reached deep. And so to hear you speak on that, I got emotional for a minute. So when Lori's like, Margie, and it was like, it's it hit.
Yeah, it hit you. It hit you because you see this here. And if you can help one, just one, you're doing good.
But because of him seeing all of the drug addictions and all different facets and all different methods,
Yes.
when he was paralyzed with ALS, and he refused to take any narcotic that would ease his pain because of all the addictions that he witnessed at his job.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, because you see that and you say that's one thing I don't want to get involved with, so you try to do that. And sometime another thing would happen too, in alcoholism as well as drugs and toxic relationship, is you become an enabler to the person. And I've had some people that became enablers, but then they start using. And the reason why they start using, because they see their loved one deteriorating in so much pain, you can't do anything about it. So a coping mechanism skill, which is not healthy, but they start using it. So now not only do you have one, you have both partners involved. So it have twists. I've seen those too. And I said, but didn't you see the person go through detox and all of that? And this is one thing I usually tell my clients. If we eat something bad, think about it. We eat something bad and it makes us sick. We'll probably say, never again we're going to touch it, right? Never. But detox, you will go through 10, 20 times and go through hell and back, and you still keep doing the same thing. But you're going to feel like you're going through hell and back, going through detox. So I told my clients that, and they look at it and say, I said, you eat something bad. You would say, oh, no, I don't want to make me sick. But you're a detox 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, which is hell and back. But we do, because I've been in a lot of the prisons. I counsel in the prisons as well. And a lot of them, too, changing the subject slightly, is that a lot of them say, that's all I know. That's what I grew up around. My mom, my dad, all of the whole family. And then everybody, too, sometimes in the family are enablers, especially in relationship, to make him feel good, or her, to make him feel happy. I make sure he has his stuff, a birthday gift. I bought him a pound of Coke, or I bought him a couple bottles, because that's the love that they're showing. It's a dysfunctional thing, of course.
Yeah.
But why? But I'll tell you what. My father was an alcoholic, weekday alcoholic, and on the weekends, in our adult times, we would go and have drinks with him. It was no problem. But then he would do also on the weekends crack. He worked all week, but whenever he would do his drugs, he did not allow any of us to see him.
Right.
So it was the honor, among drug addicts. But let me tell you something, and I get what they're doing here, because when you grow up with seeing that around you, there's a number of negative things that can happen. So what do you do for the love of that person, for enabling whatever people want to say? And when you do this, I like to say, don't judge unless someone you really love is on drugs before you can say, oh, I don't know why people do that. I don't know why you're not minding your business at this point. So stay across the street. But I would give my sister and I, we would give my father money when he would come by, especially on the weekends. Like, he would come by to see if my sister cooked, because I don't cook, and then to see if we had liquor. And he'll start off there. But why did we give him money? I didn't want him stealing for it.
Yes.
I didn't want him fiending for it, going through withdrawal, which would make an even poorer choice. Like there were times when he didn't have money, and a friend would say, here's $20, go get a thing of beer and some cigarette. And then you didn't see my father for weeks, because it was that $20 that could get him that fix.
Right.
To avoid that, because I had to go a handful of times to the friends to pay them for what he did so that they wouldn't hurt my dad, right?
Okay.
So that, not that I would buy the drugs or anything like that, but who's to say one sin is bigger than the other?
Absolutely.
When you enable, it's not so much because you're weak. It's preventing them from going to jail or getting murdered for a $5 slab of crack or coke or whatever the case may be.
Absolutely. Yeah. But even though, Margarita, all of that is good, but guess what? They still gonna put us in that enabling category.
Oh, yeah.
And you said some of the perfect reason. Your partner that you love and care about, you don't want to see them suffer. You don't want them going to jail and robbing somebody when we say, you know what, I got that. So I understand the logic, but you're right. People judge that. But until you walk those shoes, you probably are going to make sure that the person got what they have to have because you know. And you said a key thing, the withdrawals. If I don't continue to help or do something, they're going to go through that detox mode, which is pretty bad. And you should be under medical advice, that a medical supervision. I mean, if anybody's trying to detox, you probably should be under the care because they can give medication and stuff now. Cocaine, opiates as well too. I had a client, I never forget, she was really bad. She was doing morphine. And that goes to show it's not just opiates, it's that every morning she had to have morphine before she put her foot on the floor. You know, I'm not saying the name of the person, but she did put her foot, and then she had to have surgery. Well, they used the morphine for the surgery and the pain and stuff like that. And they couldn't understand why she wasn't taking. But she wasn't being honest with the people. And that's another thing when we talk about drug and alcohol addiction, is well as being in the relationship, because you tend to lie a lot to cover up another pattern. You lie for this here, you lie for this here. Now you know everything is like a cycle going around. So yeah, and you're right. People will judge you and say, you know what? Why you keep enabling them? Why you keep doing that for them? But you're right, though, Margarita.
Yeah, but it's not. It wasn't right. What I'm saying,
exactly.
Scenario as to how.
I know. Yeah.
Because after that, my father's been gone 15 years now. When he decided to quit cold turkey, he died. Like his body couldn't take not having the alcohol or the drug. He died within 3 months of quitting that, you know?
Yeah.
He always said the day I stopped drinking is the day I die, because his body, his blood was like that. That was the air it breathed, you know?
Right.
So I don't condone that.
Right. I know, but it does happen without us. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because it doesn't, we're not setting out to like deliberately do. It's a support. And a lot of time there's Al-Anon that we have out there for families to tell people how to cope, because we don't know. And unless you've been exposed to that and you know, you really don't. So we don't beat ourselves up about it. You know, just the fact that it's your loved one, you know. And then we have too, which I have had some clients that we call the weekend drug addicts. And the weekend, people say, well, how can, well, they don't consider it, they're not considered an alcoholic or drug addict living in a relationship with family and kids, but they only drink on weekends. And they say, oh, it's not. I've had clients, Friday night, paycheck, boom, they drink. Sunday, they sober up. They go the whole week without drinking. Again, they do. But on the weekends, when they're all drunk and under the influence, then the family is up for it now. You know, now you got the kids, you got the partners, they do risky behaviors, they don't care, they loud and stuff like that. And a lot of time that's where domestic violence come in with, because a lot of them say, well, I didn't hit her or I didn't hit him. But domestic violence nowadays in a relationship, throwing stuff, putting the person in fear, is no longer that you just have to hit the person. Because you don't put somebody you under the influence and now you tearing up the household, the kids are there. That's where the toxicity in the relationship and the unhealthy relationship grow. But keep in mind, that's only on the weekend. So if you're dealing with that kind of pattern, there's an issue there. Some people say, oh, well, they work all week, so they okay. It's only on the weekend.
And
But
there's the excuse. There's
yes,
the excuse. Like they're like, oh, they're all fine during the week.
yes,
And that's where it's this perpetual cycle, because either the person who's using is the toxic person, and then the other people sort of just enable the behavior just to keep the peace, or the environment is toxic, the other people are toxic, and that other person is coping with that toxicity and using, or it's all of the above, and the bottom line is that I could be wrong, but and maybe it's a generalization, but my thought is this: that if you have an individual in your household that is under the influence, that uses regularly,
mm-hmm.
and the other people don't, is it truly just that one person's problem? Like, is it just that they started using and that was that? To me, I think that something has to be off in the whole entire family.
Yes.
For that individual to feel like they need to do that. Doesn't mean it is across the board, but when we look at it, and there's something like, statistically speaking, it's like 85% of families are dysfunctional into some level, right?
Yes.
It could be minor, it could be major. So if somebody is using, and abusing, then it's not just about them. It's about the whole dynamic of the family. And it takes a lot of courage for the entire family. When you hear this, I've seen this and heard it from, like, not people that I know particularly, but stories where one person was using, it was the child or it was the parent, and the whole family did a complete revamp. Like when that person went into rehab, the whole family jumped in and they learned and they understood and and they figured out what they were doing wrong. And it all comes down to how you were raised. It always does, because we are, and not necessarily raised by your parents. It's whoever was most influential to you.
Yes.
If you had a grandparent or an aunt or uncle or friends' parents that were influential to you when you were younger, that is what you emulated. So if you were around them a lot and they had these certain behaviors, but you looked up to them, and then you would emulate that behavior. So, but it's still a matter of changing. Like, we have to recognize those toxic patterns. We have to admit to them. We have to admit our accountable piece.
Yes.
And then stop making the damn excuses for ourselves and for the other person, so that we all could learn from this. Because
But I think a lot of that is excuses, because you heard the story of the two brothers who were raised by the alcoholic, and they asked one, why do you drink? Why are you an alcoholic? He's like, well, because my father was. Then they asked the successful brother, why aren't you one? He's like, well, because my father was. And I carry that story everywhere, even with addiction, because addiction has hit my family a lot. And I think from what I've seen, what I've experienced too, is people will behave like, I get it. Some family dynamics are so fucked up that you feel there is no way out of the situation. But then it goes back to people who cheat. Your family's perfect for you. You've worked a routine, you've done that, and then either the woman is not happy, so they'll cheat, or the man is
just
an asshole.
Yeah.
Or the man is just an asshole.
That's an addiction as well, though, right? Warrnette, correct me if I'm wrong. That's an addiction as well.
Yes.
Just like stealing.
Yes.
People don't. The majority of the people.
I'm not as compassionate towards that particular addiction, though. I have to admit.
But it's still an addiction. And I think all the addictions all can stem from the same thing. So what family dynamics really drives you to that? Did your father, my father cheated all the time. My mother cheated on my father. We have VIP seating to it. Domestic violence, alcoholism, opioids, acid. Yeah. We saw all that growing up. And I think, my father's childhood wasn't perfect, and he admits it every time he would get drunk and hit himself with a hard bottle. And then you wonder, like, what the hell, am I adopted?
Right.
Yeah, because none of you got into that.
Right. Either, but if I may say, or a couple of things, but either you're going to do exactly the same thing that you grew up with, or you're going to strive opposite and say, no way. So you went the other way, which was good, because you saw sometimes you see the negativity and you say, I don't want to be that out of control. I don't want to be that way. So you kind of stray away from it. And I know when I was young, perfect example, all my friends would drink and they would get drunk, and then we have to take them in, and then they sick all night and they throwing up and all this stuff. But because I saw them do that so much, it deterred me from drinking. To that day, I never drank another alcohol because I saw that. And sometimes you see that and you see that behavior and say, oh no. So it may stray you from that. I want to say one of your guests had put up a
Yeah,
sign.
so I'm going to put that up. So
I
Edith said,
definitely.
yeah, so Edith said, I feel it's hard because my son goes to detox, but then they can't get him into rehab until a week or a week and a half later. So what happens? He relapses. Yeah, you want to talk about that?
Absolutely. That is so true. Whoever said that is true. I have been in detox centers as well. I have counseled there as well, and it is true. The wait-in list is so long, and usually, yes, if you release them, because now the bed, it becomes that government county bed money thing.
Yeah.
You can't hold them so long, but if you release them, what do they know? You never gave them any kind of structure or nothing to do. What I do know that some of the detox centers are doing now is while they in detox, once they finish and can get out of bed, feeling like they was dying the last 2 days or 3 days, then they force them into treatment, because that's where I would come at and do the groups. But they was in the detox. But she's absolutely correct. The only thing I can recommend in that kind of cases is to either try to get you a coach or get you a counselor on your own, somebody to guide them, at least while they're on the waiting list. Because that's so true. A week and a half, she is absolutely, whoever said that is absolutely correct. And that's something that's a system problem, which is sad because the cycle is over. Oh God, that makes me so angry.
That's my cousin, Iritza. That's but yeah,
She's
and she's
correct.
Well, I have a question, Warrnette. What about when the person does go into the rehab and then they purposely break the rules so they can get themselves kicked out? I mean, what do you do, especially when it's a family member and you're behind them and they get in there and then they keep like getting kicked out, or they just keep going back and forth? Like, do you recommend that individuals and the family still go and get their own counseling or coaching, and disregarding not pushing that other person, but for themselves? Because that's another piece that often gets that we just neglect. It's always about the person using, and they need the help, they need this, but the rest of the family doesn't do anything. They just sit and watch this play out constantly back and forth and don't help themselves.
Absolutely, Lori, because what I was saying at that point, which family recovery, and you had touched upon this earlier. A lot of time we say, oh, it's my problem. I'm grown. I do what I want to do. People don't tell me, but you affect the whole family. And that's why I say Al-Anon, and there's a lot of other groups out there for the family support. And sometimes just where it comes in at, which is hard, is that the tough love. Because as long as you keep enabling them, even though we helping them, but at the same time, you enabling them to keep them healthy in the addiction. And even though some people cry, some people, it tears them apart to have to be, that's why you need support like Al-Anon and all of those things to teach you what to do. And one of those are going to be things that is very difficult for us to do, because they're going to have to say, you're going to have to detach yourself from the person. Either that may force them to do, even though it's hard. I know it's hard. People cry. I mean, I see them very upset with that, but you're going to have to detach, because it affects the whole household. And then they are in the household. No matter how much you want to sugarcoat it, and it's my husband, and it's my brother, my sister, it is still an addiction. They still live in an unhealthy life, and a lot of negative things is. So it's that tough love. I love you enough to support you, to try to help you. And sometime too, keep in mind, we don't want to necessarily give up on there, because I've had people come to treatment 20 times, but the 21st time they got it together. So you don't
Yeah.
want to close the doors, but you can't do the enabling. Even though I know I can't even say that I would be able to do that with a loved one, but that's the key piece, that we as the partner, the mother, that you got to let go. You got to let, because they would use any excuse they can, and even the person that's coming from detox and all of that, all because this here, I gotta wait so long, I can't do this here. But then you get them a counselor, you can hire a counselor for that week. You can hire a coach, somebody you can hire somebody to aid them just for that week or whatever time you need before they can get in. There's other things.
That's a good idea. That's
If
a good
they
idea.
really wanted to, they could really do.
This is what Edith said. What else she said? She said, Lori, that happened to my son. He finally got into rehab for 2 weeks and later got kicked out. Now he's on the street. He called me right away and I did not run to him. I can't do it anymore.
Yes.
So what Edith is basically saying is that he gets kicked out, but then he comes back around and he reaches out to the family for help and the broken promises. And part of that is the drugs talking, but we also know too that it is also part of the toxicity because Warrnette and I both coach on even about narcissistic individuals. Not that we're saying that her son is, but the traits could be there. And narcissists are notorious too for just empty promises. I'm going to change. I need your help, playing on your emotions, playing the victim until it doesn't work. And then when they're not guilting you, then they get violent. Then they start yelling at you and like demanding stuff. And either way, they'll get their way because either you're afraid of them or you feel bad for them or you just don't want to hear them. And so substance abuse could either be that the individual using could actually be that toxic person and they can't deal with their life as it is. And so they use to cope, like Warrnette was saying, but then they also create the toxicity within the family dynamic. Warrnette, at what point do you ever recommend to the families to literally say, don't let him in, don't disconnect completely until they clean up? And if they don't, then you might have to be forever. I mean, do you have that conversation sometimes?
Yes. The person that just did the last statement, at that point, they're with the detox, they're in treatment, but they do things. I've been in treatment programs too, so that they can't get kicked out. They know the system. Once they don't want to be there no more, you do one thing that the rules and regulation is kicked out, so they do that. The cycle starts because now I'm the wife or the mother, whatever. I'm gonna come to your rescue because you've always done that. So that last statement is where you got to the point, tough love. You see how she said, I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. Once they realize, and it is hard. It is so hard. Absolutely.
But listen, it says it is so hard, but I tell my family not to take him in. He is a narcissist and gets the others in the family as much as I tell them we need to work together. So she stands her ground now because Edith has made some beautiful changes within herself.
Absolutely.
But then the rest of the family still enables the behavior. And then on top of it, guilts her for being tough with him. How could you do that to your son? This is your son.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for that type of scenario too?
For her to be with a support system, to stay on the level she is, because her going back is not going to change him. It's just going to keep him more feeding in his drug and alcohol addiction. Even though it hurts her, let the family, you can't control all the people, what they do. But she can't control what she's doing. And people are going to make you, they guilt tripping you into that. That's why you need that support system. Al-Anon, whoever you can talk to help families of addictions, that have loved ones who's addicted to alcohol or drugs. But she's doing correct at that point.
Yeah.
She's at the point, and people in the family, well, how you always your son and all this stuff,
Right.
but still, if you think about it, even if she feed into the addiction, it's still going to be a negative result.
Yeah.
So if she don't, at least I know I didn't continue to enable him. She's getting healthy, and once she get healthy, he's either going to get on track or he's not. But then that's his decision, and that's where he have to go. I commend her where she's at,
Yeah.
even though it is very hard. I know it's hard, especially when you don't have other family support there.
Mhm.
But then
It's
you
hard.
start saying the guilt trip and
But
the
because how do they become master manipulators on top of their addiction? Because they are masters at their
they good. They know all the tricks. They know how to draw you in. But that's where you need your support system that deals with people who comes from loved ones who are addicted, because they know it all. They know it all. Trust me. And they will play you. And it's hard. I'm not saying it's not hard, but I think that I told parents where she's at, you got to do the tough love. I love you enough to support you, to continue to support you in your addiction.
Amen.
And you got to go to sleep at night and feel good about that.
Yeah. It's really the guilt, and it's really the echoes of other people who are not meeting you where your strength lies, who are not strong enough to even admit there's a problem, that are going to guilt you. But let me tell you, when Iritza and I were in Spain in May, we're like Captain Save-A-Hose. We would feed, we see homeless, we would buy an extra thing and give them the leftovers, or we would treat, I bought anybody a cup of coffee. So one day we're sitting at the coffee shop again. It's like 11:30 at night, and one of the homeless guys comes up with his dog, and I say, "Oh my God, he looks like Captain Jack Sparrow, right? Beautiful." And he was French, but he's been living in Spain, so he also spoke Spanish. And picture Captain Jack Sparrow from the Pirates of the Caribbean. That's exactly what he looked like.
Yeah.
And if he did not give the best life advice, I don't know who could. Asked him his age. He was the same age as her son. So of course, Iris like, "Oh, my son, you're my son's age," and blah blah. And then Iris went to say something, and then he's kind of drunk. He had just gotten into a brawl like an hour before.
It really is like Jack Sparrow.
So he had like we saw an ambulance, so we didn't know what was going on. And then we see his big Band-Aid, but Iris told him the story, and he bends in, right, a little closer to her, and he said in Spanish, "Leave him where he's at. Leave him where he's at. There's nothing you can or should do. When he is ready,
Yes.
he will come out of it."
Yes,
Margarita. I have everything. I have houses. I have cars. I had a girl. I have a 1.5-year-old daughter that her mother brings her once a month here to where he hangs with his homeless friends so he can see him. He said, "But I don't want to leave the streets. I don't want to stop doing what I'm doing."
Yeah.
His name was Kevin. So we would walk through there, and Iris would do like the what is that movie with the Christmas one?
Oh, Christmas Story?
The Kevin, when they leave the kid behind.
Oh, Home Alone.
Home Alone. So she'll be like in the middle of the plaza, Kevin. We seen him like once after that, and then it's like he was an omen, like he was an angel disguised, because we didn't see him no more after that. So, but Warrnette, what I'm saying is sometimes it'll take someone that you least suspect.
Yeah.
To give you that philosophy.
To light that candle up your ass, to gain strength and say, "It's gonna break my heart, but I gotta do this." And his didn't only serve Iris, it also served me. So what I'm saying is just be open and less judgmental. Use discernment.
Yes.
The people you're gonna meet in this lifetime, because everyone you meet, it was already ordained, whether it's good, bad, and the ugly. But you're gonna learn from it, you're gonna take from it. And if you don't believe it, but you meet that person, Kevin, and he tells you that, you're going to take it, apply it to your life, and share it with others. So the good news will travel.
Very good.
I know, Warrnette, I know you got to go in like 2 minutes, but one quick question that you can answer
Yes.
Do you feel, with all the experience you've had, that sometimes the best thing that can happen to somebody who's using and abusing gets arrested? Do you think that helps?
I have seen that where I felt that because all other avenues have been explored, and then you feel like rather than them dying or rather than getting killed or whatever the case may be, sometimes incarceration may be the answer. Because some sober up there, and then unfortunately, some of them said, Miss Lewis, I use more drugs in jail than I did on the streets
Mm.
too. So that because I've been in the prison, they told me that. So it all depends on where you at, and where you're ready, and whatever is your rock bottom. And everyone, please remember, everybody has a rock bottom.
Yes.
To you and I, if we didn't get food tonight, or somebody said we don't have a roof, that's rock bottom for us. We will fall apart. But that may not be somebody else's rock bottom.
Yeah.
Whatever jail they've been there for. I mean, I've seen them over and over. Like, what? Oh, I thought you was doing good. Oh, yeah, Miss Lewis, they bugging me. It's always somebody else. It's never them.
Yeah.
So I always say, okay. But the one thing I've learned to do and have helped me is I take my clients with addiction, whether it's relationship issues, or wherever they're at. I start wherever they at. If they at that corrupt stage, then you got to start there, and you got to make them own it. And sometimes you have to develop a line of trust before they would take in. Because I've had some that come in kicking and fight. I want to come here. I ain't got no problem. I ain't here, but you only been here 10 times and you ain't got no problem. Okay. All right, then. Okay, that's fine. I'll take you where you at. Let's start picking it apart. So I think another thing is those that have loved ones who create a support system that is supportive of your ideas, not those ones that are not, and stop sharing information with them if you're going to feel they're going to batter you, because then you're going to go back enabling the person who has the problem, because they have a whole lot of work to do. I do recommend that. Find a coach or find a counselor while you're waiting for, because there's other things you could do within that week or so before they get into the treatment. If they really wanted to, they can do that.
And that's the key word.
Yes.
That's the key word, because when you really want to help, you provide all avenues of assistance, and they mess them up. They burn the bridges at each one.
Yes.
You do it again, and then it's your fault because you didn't love me enough, because you
Exactly.
you're almost 40 years old saying the same shit. So yeah, absolutely right.
Yes. But if you put the mattress under them, they will not learn.
I do feel he is safe when he is in jail and always gets clean, healthy, and he likes the structure. Oh.
And I've seen that too. But then you got to understand, he is living, he's getting a meal, and at least he's not on drugs. As sad as that may sound, you got to take them for where they're at. And that's
we want to honor the fact that you need to jump off. It's 9:01. Warrnette, this was lovely. You were phenomenal. We'd love to have you back again. I think this is a real, and maybe like toward holidays, because we'll talk about how the toxic relationships and substance abuse increases
during the holidays.
During the holidays. So
I would love that.
Okay, fabulous.
Thank you for having me, everybody.
You can jump off, Warrnette. Thank you so much for coming on, and reach out to Warrnette at lewislifecoach.com.
Thank you, ladies. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So that was wonderful.
That was wonderful.
Yeah.
Because we know this, but to hear it with a different accent, and she has like this calming voice. Like her words are so fierce and they're piercing because it's truth, but she says it in a tone that you just, okay, damn, I done messed up. I know she's talking about me, but it sounds good. So thank you for that. I'm glad that Warrnette was on today.
She comes, also Warrnette comes, what I love about Warrnette is she also is, listen, she's been doing this 20 years. I've known a lot of people who've done what she's done or something similar for that long, and they get burnt out and they're like done. And because it's exhausting emotionally and mentally, it can be very exhausting. So, but she comes from, you can hear it in her voice that she has love and compassion and patience, and she's heard it all. And so she doesn't take the shit, but at the same time, she's not rude about it. She's like you. She's very straightforward, but she's there. Like if you want to take it in, she's going to be very open, loving, and supportive. If you're not going to take it in, she's just going to be very matter of factly, but she's not going to be bitchy, rude. She's just matter of fact. And I think that it would be curious to see like her success level, because I think she probably is quite successful with, and success meaning not who recovers. It's more like who, even if they've used again, who she was still able to, because even if somebody uses again and then they say, I just couldn't do it, but I do remember what you said, and I still bring that with me. That still means that she planted a seed.
It was successful, because it is, and that's what I'm saying. Where people with judgment need to stay the fuck across the street, because let me tell you, you don't fail because you dedicated so much time. This person is an addict. So add the key word that Warrnette said in all of this was meet them where they are. Don't build them up to meet you where you're at, because then why are you doing this? For you? For accolades?
That's
meet
right.
them where they're at, and know that you're going to pour in hours and hours of information and expertise, and they might get a minute of it and then be like, oh, okay, thank you for your time, and go get high when she leaves until something happens. But it all goes back to el hal dinero de mis raíces, the garden of my roots. When my father planted those seeds of wisdom so long ago, they didn't take effect until we were adults. Now, with addicts, it's the same thing. And you hit it. Perfect. They're going to take the words she say, and they're going to feel bad as they're getting high, but it's going to take a minute for them to drown the want of the addiction and build up on their strength that, wow, somebody believes in me.
And we as humans also have to understand that it might not be in this lifetime.
For us.
That's the other piece, is that this might not be the life that they figure it out in. And that's why they pass away, or they'll something, and I think that's the hardest part. I think that's why we enable, because especially when it comes to our own children, you don't want to say, I didn't try enough. But the reality is you have to look at it and say, but I did. Like I did try enough, and I did all that I could, but I can't do it anymore. I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to make myself a better person, and in hopes that individual will do it, and they may never do it. Years ago when I had my practice on Main Street in downtown Bridgeport, there was this homeless guy that was there all the time, and we got to know him. And he would say to me things like, if I had on a Monday, if I had my truck filled with something, or if like we had done a show where we did like a wellness show and we had the car packed up with stuff, he would say, oh, can I help you bring stuff in? And he'd say, could I, for a few bucks? And I'd say, sure. And he admitted he was a heroin addict. He was well educated, came from a great family. He was an author, but he said that he started using to cope with stuff, and it just got out of hand. And he knew it when he was sober. He knew exactly who he was and what he was doing. And he was a very nice guy. But he used, and he couldn't stop. And then at some point he actually came up to us and said his mother wasn't well or died, and his sister got a hold of him. I don't know how. And they were bringing him back to California, and he was ready. Like he was ready to get on a plane and go back to California. And, and in my heart, I hope that he got back there and he went into rehab, and he, in my head, that's the story, whether he did or not, I don't know, but that's right. But I wasn't, like he wasn't a family member, so it's different, but that's part of the piece too. And that's why with all this conversation, it's not just about the person that has the substance abuse problem.
Never is.
We have to work on ourselves too, because we played a role some way, somehow, maybe not directly, or we were influenced by that toxicity from that individual. And no matter what, we still have to work on ourselves. And maybe that gives us the strength to be able to say, I'm sorry, I can't help you. And if the rest of the family wants to help you, that's on them. But I have to actually pull myself away from the rest of the family then, because, and you have to be bold enough to take that responsibility of being the bad guy and how horrible you are. But there's always going to be somebody that understands. They're going to say, no, you did the right thing.
You have to be as realistic with yourself as you expect people to be. That's one. And number two, you know what? We all play a part in our own demise. And it does trickle down to our children and those closest to us, because they're stuck with us. And sometimes, and as bad as this may seem, sometimes the trauma, drama, and chaos happens to the ones we love, because we have to look at that reflection.
Yeah.
Because we might think, oh, look at, they're on drugs, or what the hell, and whatever. But that reflection that you're putting out didn't only affect him. It's probably affecting 5 to 10 other people. And you're only looking at this one person because they're closer to you. And sometimes, see, I believe in God, and I believe God doesn't allow bad things to happen to us. But when it does, he gives us the tools and the insight to figure it out. And when we don't, something tragic happens, and it's to check ourselves.
Yeah.
So thank you for saying that. You can see what you did, apologize for it, and keep moving. Apologize in such a sincere way that addicted person cannot hold it against you anymore, because some of their complaints as to why they do what they do are facts. It's not all lies. They're not all making it up for as an excuse to get high. And if you're miserable, admit you're miserable, but love yourself enough to quit what you're doing. And that's been something I've been saying a lot lately. So yes, figure it out. When we enable the people we love, is that love?
No.
When we enable the people we love because they're always accusing us that it's our fault that they're doing it, have we really did a microscopic check about ourselves and delve into the past to figure out, try to connect the puzzles? If you know you haven't, if you know you have, apologize for what you did, because you did not know better. So how dare they hold that against you with their lives on a string? So apologize wholeheartedly with no buts, no anything. I am so sorry that I played a role in this, and I pray that you get better. I am releasing it. You can't hold on to it anymore because I no longer hold it. Boom, apologize, and then
they can hold on to it, but that's on them now. That's on them now.
Exactly. So now they cannot. That is not ammunition for them to hold against you anymore. Because not only did you release it, you severed it at the root. They can try 2 or 3 times to come back at you with it, but after that, because you severed it, they can no longer hold you hostage to that blame. And it's to help. And then the reflections will be clear with good intentions. So, but it's work we all have to do, because again, addiction is not only drugs. It is not only alcohol. It's gambling, it's shopping, it's stealing, it's cheating, it's sex.
It's eating.
With no attachments. Yes, it's absolutely eating. You know, that arousal you get when you bite into that really juicy chili cheesesteak, Philly cheesesteak, yeah. But it's many things, mi gente. So I'm so happy we had this conversation today.
Yep. Yes, absolutely. And with that, the other conversation on Thursday with our other fabulous guest, Dr. Oh my God, I'm going to screw it up. Dr. Amanda. She is something else, man. She is just an absolutely unbelievable lady. But it's I love me not. And that we've had this conversation before with another guest. We're going to do it again because it was such a good conversation. I love me not. This goes now into the part of where we start to look deeper within ourselves about how we feel, truly feel about ourselves. Because if you loved yourself 100% unconditionally as you are, you would want to keep making yourself better. And you would be very aware of the behaviors and things that you do and the choices that you make that are not good for you. And you would stop doing it. So that's why this is going to be a great conversation. And this woman is her pictures are absolutely fabulous because she decided that she doesn't care what her age is. She's around our age, but she is sexy as hell, and she's a doctor, and she says, screw it, I'm gonna be who I am. And she poses and she does these beautiful pictures, and it's absolutely fabulous. So it's going to be a great conversation on Thursday.
It really is.
All right. So thank you for coming on and hanging out with us 10 minutes extra. And thank you to our guest, Warrnette Lewis, from lewislifecoach.com. Check her out. And from the Badass Buddha, remember, be you, be real, and be extraordinary.
And from the Gladiator Guru, who I didn't change my name, remember me, gente? To breathe in the beauty and breathe out the bullshit. Namaste.